Please help me saying, welcome Rishi to Atreyu 2023.
Well, buongiorno, it's fantastic to be here in Rome with you all. When I was a child watching The Never-Ending Story, I never expected that one day I would be speaking at a political conference named after Atreyu. And I know how much this conference, actually this pre-Christmas political festival, owes to you, Giorgia. So it's fantastic to be with you here today and to meet you in your hometown in this stunning, eternal city. Now, I know how proud Giorgia is to be Roman, and looking across the Seven Hills here today, I can certainly see why. But I also know how proud you are of your country and how well you serve it. And I see you doing that with conviction and determination at summits and meetings from Hiroshima to Dubai to Grenada, as well as last month at the AI summit in the UK. Now, Giorgia and I became prime ministers of our countries at pretty much the same time, and we are pretty much the only centre-right leaders in the G7, so we have been drawn to each other. We have built a strong friendship. A strong friendship, but also a strong relationship over our shared interests and, most importantly, our shared values. We are both conservative Atlanticists. We are supporters of NATO, the centrality of the Atlantic Alliance. We both believe that it is fundamental that we stand up to Russian aggression, that we support Ukraine in the prospect of a better future. And I say to all our allies that, in the words of Winston Churchill, if we give the Ukrainians the tools, they will finish the job. So let's get them the weapons and the ammunitions they need. There is nothing conservative about allowing a country's sovereignty to be violated. Conservatives know that the first rule of international politics is that we must always stand firm against aggression and defend our values. Now, in a daunting world, we all need lodestars to guide us. And I'm pleased to say that Giorgia and I share some of the same guiding lights. First, the late Roger Scruton, a titan of conservative philosophy. Roger was a great influence on me when I was working in local government and housing issues. He understood that if people are to accept development, it must be in keeping with the character of the place that they call home. Home is somewhere that you are not just where you live, but you are proud to call your home. And as he put it, the real reason people are conservative is that they are attached to the things that they love. Now, next up is Margaret Thatcher. Now, I can only guess what first attracted Giorgia to the strong female leader who was prepared to challenge the consensus, take on stale thinking, and revive her country both domestically and on the international stage. When Giorgia came to see me in Downing Street, we had the opportunity to look through some of Margaret Thatcher's personal papers together. And what struck me as we looked at them was not just her radicalism, her boldness, but her seriousness too. She understood that ideas only mattered if you could implement them. She was as serious about governing as she was about political philosophy. Now, Margaret Thatcher never shied away from the hard choices and the big issues. And today, there is no issue to which we need to apply Thatcher's radicalism and drive to more than illegal migration. Now, our opponents just want to ignore this issue. They want to put their heads in the sand and hope that it goes away. Well, let me tell them that it won't. If they doubt that, just go to Lampedusa. Arrivals in the central Mediterranean up by more than 50% this year. That is unsustainable, but it is also unfair and it is immoral. Criminal gangs will find ever cheaper ways to ply their evil trade. They will exploit our humanity, and they think nothing of putting people's lives at risk when they put them in these boats at sea. And our enemies will also see that we are unable to deal with this, and then they will so increasingly use migration as a weapon, deliberately driving people to our shores to try to destabilise our societies. So if we do not tackle this problem, the numbers will only grow. It will overwhelm our countries and our capacity to help those who actually need our help the most. The cost of accommodating these people will anger our citizens, who won't understand why their money should have to be spent on dealing with the consequences of this evil trade. It will destroy the public's faith, not just in us as politicians, but in our very systems of government. Why? Because it is fundamental. It is a fundamental tenet of sovereignty that it is us who should decide who comes to our countries and not criminal gangs. Now, if we cannot deliver on that, our voters will lose patience with us and the way in which their countries are run, and rightly so. We simply must have control of our borders. So we must deal with this problem, and to ignore it would to put our countries at risk. And if we are to stop the boats, then we must have a deterrent. People must know that if they come to our countries illegally, then they won't get to stay. It's as simple as that. Now, making that deterrent credible will mean doing things differently, breaking from consensus. And both Giorgia and I are prepared to do that. Giorgia is planning to send asylum seekers to Albania to be processed, and I am passing legislation so that we can send illegal migrants to Rwanda. We are both determined to break the business model of these criminal gangs. And let me say this, if that requires us to update our laws and lead an international conversation to amend post-war frameworks around asylum, then we must do that. Because if we don't fix this problem now, the boats will keep coming and more lives will be lost at sea. Now, the government I lead has shown that deterrence works. In January of this year, we signed an agreement with Albania to show that it is safe. And since then, we have removed 5,000 people, and arrivals from Albania to the UK have fallen by 90%. If people know that they won't get to stay, then they won't come. And that must be our aim, that everyone knows that if they come to Italy or to Britain illegally, then they simply won't get to stay. So we will do what it takes to stop the boats, to get this done, and to restore our citizens' faith in the security of our borders. That is our challenge as a generation of Conservative leaders, and we will rise to it. And Giorgia, thank you for your global leadership on this issue. And in closing, let me also say thank you for Italy's staunch stance, standing alongside the UK and our other allies in NATO in standing up to aggression on our continent. Italy is a truly remarkable country, loved and admired by so many of my fellow countrymen and women, me included. And we go a long way back together, we Brits and we Italians, from Caesar landing on the Kent coast in 55 BC to our construction today of the next generation of fighter aircraft. And we were reminded of the deep links between our two societies when, Giorgia, you came to London and we went to see the Cosmati pavement in Westminster Abbey, laid by British and Italian artisans nearly 800 years ago. That shows what we Brits and Italians can achieve together when we put our minds to it. So let that be the spirit that drives the partnership between our countries today, and as Italy takes on the leadership of the G7, as we look to the future together and work to deliver for our people. It is a privilege and a pleasure, Giorgia, to take that work forward with you, and it is a great honour to be here today supporting you. Buon Natale a tutti.